everyone, I'm Stephanie. I'm a book-loving, notebook-hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. And this is the Get Literate podcast. Each week, we mix together books, notebooks, mindful practices, and creativity to cultivate a life we love. You can expect regular weekly episodes focused on 3 books you need to know about on a bookish theme, and we'll bring those themes to life in our actual lives too. You can also expect author interviews, notebooking inspiration, and topics to help us grow through what we go through. Now, let's grab a notebook and your TBR list, and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. I am so excited to reveal a fun project I have in store for myself in 2023, and I'm going to issue you a challenge to do it with me. So as you might have guessed from listening to this podcast, especially if you just listened to my previous episode where I talked about all 8 or 9 of my notebooks, I'm a planner. I am a planner by nature. I love my notebooks. I love my planners. And I also love any kind of ritual or routine or tool that helps me plan forward, right? These might be checklists, to-do lists. I love those. And even challenges, right? I can get behind all of those kinds of things because I know it's going to help me plan forward. Now, in thinking about challenges, I seem to encounter challenges wherever I go lately, and that's pretty typical for this phase of the year. We're in January, the month of new starts and new resolutions. There are challenges like the Whole30, like 75 hard, which, oh my goodness, seems incredibly hard, and even something like Dry January. There's also the Bookish challenges going around. You've got Pop Sugar's yearly challenge. You've got Book Riot's Read Harder challenge. I've seen on social media that 12 books from friends challenge where you try to fill in that graphic with 12 books recommended from friends in your feed. And of course, if you listen to a previous episode with Jules from the Literary Lifestyle, then you know about the Gilmore Girls books and the Rory Gilmore Book Club challenge. There are so many challenges out there, and I want to get behind them. I really do, but I want to make sure that I'm choosing a challenge to get involved in because it's aligned with the kind of reading life that I want to have. I really want it to have a lot of intention behind it. That's why when I think of challenges, I think of Gretchen Rubin. You know, I love all things Gretchen Rubin, and she's done a lot of work on challenges for making yourself not just better, happier, but that are aligned with who you are, right? So she's written the book 4 Tendencies. She's written Better Than Before. She's written The Happiness Project. All of these books are basically challenges to help yourself be better. On the Happier podcast, which I listen to every week, along with those super fan bonus Saturday episodes, her and Liz talk a lot about their challenges. So they have 2 types of challenges. One is the 23 and 23 list, where each of them go through and talk about 23 things they want to accomplish in the new year. Now, some of those are big, like taking a trip or taking a vacation, and others are small, like updating your passport or making sure you're buying new towels for the bathroom, right? But the idea of creating that 23 and 23 list is that it gives us some kind of routine or ritual to sit down, to figure out what matters most, and then create some sort of challenge for ourselves, some sort of visual, so that we can accomplish those things in the coming year. I have done those kinds of lists for the past couple of years. I have a 23 for 23 list in my notebook, in one of my notebooks right now. But I've also been thinking more about their 23 and 23 challenge. So that's what they call hashtag 23 and 23. And they've been doing it for a couple of years. I remember it was Read 20 in 2020. It was Walk 21 in 2021, Rest 22 in 2022, and this year is Get Outside 23 and 2023. So I've been thinking about how I can combine all of the things I love about challenges, the things that I love about that 23 and 23 list, and what makes hashtag 23 and 23 so special for a lot of people. And so I've come up with a bookish 23 and 23 for myself. Now, I've been thinking about this for a while, but I really got inspired when I saw a blog post written by Life's a Pearl. If you want to check out her Instagram, she's at Seasonal Mood Reader on Instagram. And I loved it because she created a reading life bucket list. So when I told you I love all things related to planning, the notebooks, the planners, the routines, the rituals, the checklist, the to-do list, a bucket list is right up my alley. And I'd never considered making a reading bucket list. She had so many good ideas on this list, things like joining a new book club, making sure to go to a library sale, visiting a new indie bookstore, and one of my favorites, which is bake something or cook something inspired by a book that you've read. So when you combine everything I've been learning from Gretchen Rubin and this reading life bucket list inspiration, I came up with my very own 23 and 23 bookish version. And so here it is. My plan for myself in 2023 is to attend 23 virtual or in person, but I'm giving myself the option of both, virtual book events hosted by either independent bookstores or libraries. So 23 events that's going to get me closer to the book world. I have really great reading habits. I make sure that I fuel my reading heart. I share my books widely with my reading community, but I have always wanted to get closer to the actual book world, to the authors themselves, to the book fairs, to the conferences, to the publishers, to all the things. And so this 23 and 23 is going to get me a little bit closer to that. I decided not to do just in person because traveling is not the easiest with a busy home, 3 kids, 5 dogs. So I'm opening myself up to some virtual events, and I've been having a really good time taking a look at what's involved, and I've already gotten started. I didn't want to do this episode until I had at least one of my January events under my belt, and I do. So my first event that I attended just this week was amazing. Green Lights Bookstore in Brooklyn, New York, hosted Julia Cameron. Can you imagine? Meeting live on Zoom with Julia Cameron was my first book event. I don't know how I'm going to top that. I had just purchased her newest book, Write for Life. And as you know, if you've been listening to the podcast, I have been going through her Artist's Way 12-week journey for the past 12 weeks. That's why I knew I wanted this Write for Life book, because for me, my creativity resides in words. And I love writing and I love this podcasting. And so I wanted to keep that journey going, but with more of a word-based focus as part of my creativity. I got to spend an hour on Zoom with Julia. She talked about her most precious tools from the Artist's Way. If you don't know, those are morning pages, the artist state, and very quiet, solitary walks in nature. And then she went through and she started talking about some of the newer tools that she was putting in the writer's life as a way to extend that and to help people who really want to bring their own words to life. So things like a daily quota, things like her new tool called Grabbing Time, and even creating writing stations in your home. So it's only the first event, and I'm already jazzed up, not just for meeting an author, not just for getting new ideas to make reading and writing more central in my life, But it just felt so nice to be part of a bookish community, to meet new people from a bookstore that I potentially could drive to only a couple of hours away, and to just take that time for myself and get excited about all of the other bookish people who are going to take that right for life journey too. So I couldn't have kicked off my 23 and 2023 with a better event. And I've already got my second event ready to go on the calendar. This one is going to be an in-person event, and it's right at my local library. I had no idea my local library had so many authors in, but I happened to take the time to stop and actually look at the bulletin board on my way out the door. And I found that an author is coming. It works with my schedule, and it's a nonfiction book that I know will help me in the new year. It is called Decluttering to Start Your New Year. And she also has another book about organizing for the rest of us, which made me smile because I did that Festivus for the rest of us episode. But Dana is going to be in person in my local library talking about those two books and giving us strategies to make our life more organized and decluttered in the new year. And since I learned from my Alex Spinayan's 30-day challenge that clutter is something that definitely robs me of energy, I thought that this event would be a really good fit. So do you see what I'm doing there? I'm not just saying I'm going to attempt 23 virtual events in 2023. I want these virtual events to be really intentional. I want them to make my reading life better, but I really want them to make my actual life better, which is what we do here on this podcast, as you know. So those are the two events that are planned for January. And I've already got lots of possibilities bookmarked for February too. So here's the challenge. If you were to create a bookish 23 and 23, what would it be? Would you decide to visit 23 different independent bookstores? Or would you visit 23 different public libraries? Maybe you would just decide to read 23 minutes every single day. Or maybe you decide to notebook for 23 minutes every single day. Maybe you'll get really whimsical and you'll let yourself try 23 different notebooks to see which one is your favorite, and then send feedback and let everybody else know. Maybe you're going to give yourself permission to buy 23 different pens for your notebook as you go throughout the year so that your writing becomes really whimsical and joyful. Choice is yours. And the fun part is we get a choice. So what would you do if you were to create this really fun 23 and 2023 bookish challenge for yourself? I want to know what they are. I would love for you to share them with me. You know, you can find me on just about any social media platform using Affinito Lit. You can head online to alitlife.com and let me know what you're thinking of for your challenge in 2023. Or you can just join mine. Why don't you join me in attending 23 bookish events in 2023 to make your reading life better and your actual life better too? We can share ideas, we can talk about what we've learned, and if you're inside my Patreon community, that's exactly what's going to happen this year. You're going to get the inside scoop into the events that I attend. So I'm going to do summary episodes and recap episodes of each of these events, letting you know what I've learned so that you can attend them right along with me, in addition to whatever bookish 23 and 23 challenge you host for yourself as well. So if you're not inside the Patreon community and you want an inside look as to what my 23 and 23 bookstore visits are, then make sure you join me there. You can head online to getliterate.co and you can browse. You can see all of the posts that have already been posted. There are a couple of freebies on there so that you can get a sense of what the community is about. And we can join together to start our own 23 and 23 book version as we head into the new year. That's it for me today. I am all jazzed up about these events. I hope I've got your brain thinking about what your Bookish 23 and 23 might be. And I can't wait to see what they are on social media and in the show notes and maybe inside my Patreon community too. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I will see you here next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing lives, like bonus podcast episodes, book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking challenges, live events, giveaways, and much more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all the previous content too. You can learn more at getliterate.co. But one more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our Bookish and Notebookish community too. Thanks so much for listening.